I think it's time to grab the bull by the horns, Frank, and just, again, reiterate why you believe, first of all, that morality does have this objective nature to it, so that there is a real realm of moral right and wrong, good and evil, because fundamentally you're saying if evil does exist, as much as that may be a problem for why a loving God would allow evil, nonetheless it's a signpost that something beyond the material world has to exist to allow this realm of good and evil.
Real quick, I want to tee this video up briefly. Frank Turek, Alex O'Connor, they're going to be debating and talking about, does evil prove the existence of God, or does it disprove the existence of God? And I think this is going to get to the heart of a really interesting point between the two beliefs and how they view the world. And I want you to stick around to the end, because I think there's a really important takeaway that we can look at how these two beliefs look at the world. All right.
In fact, I think Alex recognizes that signpost, because on his website, he rails, I think rightfully, against some of the abuses of the Roman Catholic Church, where he talks about how priests have sexually abused children. And obviously, that's a great wrong. But my question is, Alex, if you really think that is a great wrong, why would you deny objective morality? I mean, is that really wrong, or is it just a matter of personal opinion?
Well, I think that we agree in one sense that evil doesn't necessarily disprove God. I'm with you on that. What I would say is to answer your question, objectively, no. It is a subjective thing. Morality, to me, is entirely subjective.
Why do you say that?
Well, because, firstly, a thing to note is that objective morality... Well, let's talk about what objective actually means, I suppose. Objectivity, to me, if you want my definition, would be to say that it is true regardless of human intervention, regardless of human consciousness. For instance, the Earth orbits the Sun. That would be true if all humans disappeared.
Right.
Every single one of them. It would still be an objective fact. But to say that murder is wrong, if every human disappeared, that couldn't still be wrong, surely. That would be a nonsense concept without some kind of human psychology. The only way that you could argue that perhaps it would still be wrong is if there was some kind of transcendent being. But then you need to have that being in order to prove the existence of the objective morality that you're then using to prove the God. So
but what we're doing is we're reasoning from effect to cause, that we have this effect known as this moral law that is pressing on us. And as you admitted in the video, and look, videos, 2-minute videos, 10-minute videos, you can't expound on all the nuances. So if this is wrong, correct me. But you seem to say that in fact, I think you quoted, the quote was, let me just quote you accurately on this, because in the video you said this, you said moral truths are so deeply ingrained in us that they feel like they are objective.
Yes.
Right? Okay, so my question is, why would you doubt they're objective if they're so deeply ingrained in us?
Well, because this is where I think Sam Harris is right, in the sense that if you have certain assumptions, so let's say that we could assume that human well-being was a good thing. We'll discuss why shortly, but let's say we assume that. We could then say that it is objectively true that we should act in certain ways, for instance, trying not to murder people. And that would then become an objective morality. Right. So because evolution has instilled within us, through genetics, a drive to stay alive, then we can derive objective moral truths about how we should act in order that complies with this inner nature, which I think has come about through evolution. So even if you don't subscribe to the idea that certain moral actions, such as not killing or not stealing, have come about through evolution, the instinctual nature within us to stay alive causes us to think of those as objective truths. But it's a technicality. So for all intents and purposes, you could say they're objective truths. If you grab 100 people off the street and ask them, is rape wrong? 100 of them will say yes. But that doesn't mean it's objective. I mean, for instance, I put it to you, would you say that chocolate is tasty?
Yeah, I would, but that's a subjective...
Right, sure.
Some people may not like chocolate.
It's subjective.
Yeah.
That's
a flavor.
So tar can be just as tasty as chocolate. But that's no problem, right? That's no problem whatsoever. So when you say something along the lines of, so morality is subjective. So what Hitler did being wrong was just an opinion. Well, yes, but in the same sense that chocolate tasting as good as tar is an opinion.
See, I think when
it doesn't make a difference.
Well, no, I think it does, because it's much more obvious that, say sexually abusing children is wrong, then atheism's true.
Right.
So why would you say that atheism's true in order to avoid the obvious conclusion that sexually abusing children is wrong? You already know sexually abusing children is wrong. Now, if you want to use an evolutionary argument, the problem is that undercuts everything you think. Because if everything we think is the product of evolution, the product of the laws of physics or biology or whatever it is, then why should we believe anything we think? Forget about morality for a second. Why should we even believe that atheism's true or that Christianity's true? If we're completely... I'm sorry, I'm suffering from jet lag here. If our thoughts are the result of some random evolutionary process, why should we believe anything we think is true?
Well, the first thing is that evolution isn't a random process. But that aside, it's
let me put it this way: it's either directed by an outside intelligence or it's not.
Sure. Okay. I'll give
If
you
it's not directed by an outside intelligence, then it's random.
Yes. So.
So, if it's directed by intelligence, then perhaps God exists. If it's not
Sure.
directed by intelligence, why should we believe anything we think?
Because, I mean, this is the old argument from against naturalism that people like
C.S. Lewis.
And indeed modern practitioners like Plantinga have put forward, which, as I understand it, is effectively saying if evolution, if effectively it's meant for the propagation of our DNA, it's not aimed at us receiving true beliefs. It's not aimed at us actually. It's not aimed at reasoning.
No.
And ultimately, you could even go as far as to say that the actual processes of matter in motion, atoms banging into each other, electrochemical processes, those are non-rational. Why would we assume that they produce rational thinking? Because ultimately, I mean, and your argument here, I guess, Frank, is it undercuts the whole project.
It's this idea.
Of atheism.
It's almost sort of existential. You know, why should we believe anything if there's no guidance? To me, it's like asking the question, like you said earlier, about, you know, how do we know that we even exist, or that the universe wasn't created last Thursday? For me, it's somewhat based on consensus. It doesn't prove it's true, but reason is one of those things that we need to assume in order to get anywhere. In the same sense, we need to assume that we exist in order to have a philosophical discussion.
No, that's a very wise point. I agree with you. The question is, how do we explain reason on a naturalistic worldview?
All right, for the sake of time, we'll go ahead and cut the video there. If you want to watch the whole thing, I'll put a link in the description of the video to the original video. Fantastic conversation, full of just like charitableness and just being nice. Like, I like people being nice, don't we all? It's incredible. One of the things they were going to end there is Alex O'Connor was going to say, listen, this is just one of those things where we're going to have to just go on the consensus. We're going to have a little faith that reason is even possible. And I think there is one of like the really important takeaways that we can look at something like this. And I'm just going to give you my opinion. If you feel like something's different, and this is in all humility, please, comment down below whether you think this is true, whether how you view it, if it's differently, whatever. But Alex is like, well, no, I don't think morality is objective. I don't think we can put our faith in the morality's objective, but I am going to put my faith that reason is possible, because I have to just be able to reason. Because Frank's is like, listen, okay, by your own definition, even the ability to think, to reason, is not guaranteed. It's circular, and it goes kind of like, it kind of all falls apart. And Alex is like, well, that's the point where I'm going to actually put some faith that, well, yes, I understand random processes through evolution, but we have to put our faith in something, and I'm going to put my faith in reasoning. And I think that's the difference, is Frank is going to say, okay, I see, but I'm going to put my faith in morality. Both gentlemen are putting their faith in something. No matter if you are a Christian, a Buddhist, a Muslim, or you're an atheist, a skeptic, you are putting your faith in something. There is no possible way to say, I'm just living with no faith, I'm just going by the numbers. If you look at, when you deduce it all, when you break all the things down, ultimately you do have to put your faith in something. Maybe you're ignorant to some of these arguments, so you didn't know that you had to, but you do. If evolution is true, and it's not being organized by some divine creator, then it's all random. Then we don't even have the reason, the ability, the faith to think that what we're thinking is even logical. It could not be logical. Now, we can maybe look at the evidence, but we don't absolutely know. And I think that's the difference between fact and truth. Fact is something that can be observed. Truth is something that is supreme. It goes beyond the observable. And so, second point I wanted to make is that if you are saying that there is no God, then we have to say that there is no absolute good and absolute evil. Because if there's no absolutes, like God would be an absolute, we're in a universe of no absolutes. The only absolute would be there's no absolutes, and I don't really have a mind big enough to understand that concept. That means that possibly Hitler, Mussolini, Genghis Khan, people who own slaves and abuse them, and rape that happens every single day in this country is not inherently wrong. We saw this happen. Like he said, I guess then rape's not wrong, and then the whole room kind of just like tensed up a little bit. And my conviction, my worldview is the reason the room tensed up is because every single one of those gentlemen in the room has a soul, has something that is imparted by God, and they have what Romans says, the laws of God written on their heart. And so even Alex, in that moment, I could see his head and his heart kind of like battling each other. And his heart's like, yes, rape is wrong. And his head's like, no, remember, it's not wrong. And you're having to convince this deep inner knowing that some of these things are just wrong. You have to convince yourself and like push that down in order to maintain that worldview. And I think that's the point of a bypass with those two people. It's like, well, no, I'm going to choose to put my faith in that morality is true, because over every single civilization, every single people group, we have, by and large, this same similar set of like understandings of what's true, of what's good, and what's evil. And Alex is like, no, I'm going to put mine in reason, but I'm going to discredit that. And I think that's just where the bypass is. And you are going to have to sit, whether you're a Christian and you're questioning, maybe you're a skeptic, or you just found this video for some other reason, you have to decide, where are you going to put your faith in? Are you going to say, no, I feel it deeply. I can't explain it. I deeply feel there's definitely good and evil in the world. It is wrong to molest babies, to molest toddlers. I have a 6-year-old daughter. It is wrong for grown men to take advantage of them. And if you're going to say that there's no objective good and evil, then you're going to have to say it's not wrong for that to happen. Objectively. Subjectively, it's wrong, but it's not objectively wrong. And that's just something you're going to have to live with. Thank you guys for sticking to the end of the video. I think this is a really important point for many people who are wrestling. They're going to have to contend with. And I think the morality that Romans talks about, that the laws of God are written on our heart, and that in the context of that scripture, it actually says, so that no man would have an excuse before the judgment. That we knew that God was real because the laws were on our heart and we could see him in creation. Thank you guys for watching the end of the video. If you want to watch some more stuff, it's right here. Catch you later. Bye.